Today we're talking about the disadvantages of being a single guy. Some of the things I'm going to mention in this video may apply to just single people in general, both women and men. The obvious thing is you're without a partner, someone who you can share love with and intimacy with. That is missing when you're single, and it can be hard on you when tough times hit that you have nobody that you can be intimate with or be with to help out. All of us as human beings want someone special to be with. That's just the way we're built, I feel like. A lot of us are happy being single, but I think we can be happier if we were married to the right person. Being married has a lot of advantages over being single. And I'm going to go over some of these. Being single is a gift, but also being married to the right person is a gift. They're both advantages to both. So let's talk about the disadvantages to a single guy. And most of these I'm going to talk about. I'm coming from the vantage point of the U.S. Now, I don't know, I'm sure most of it in general is the same across all countries. I'm mainly going to be coming from the perspective of being in the United States. So you guys in Europe, Australia, Canada, the East, you can tell me if you notice some of the same things or things are different where you are. Number one, we've talked about before, and that's being judged by society in general. That's being looked at, if you're single, as you're not as reliable, you're not committed, there's something wrong with you. Media, and I think media plays a big role in that, is the way media, I'll do a video on that, the way media portrays single men. And it's always seems to be the outlaw or the bad guy, etc. But I'll go over that in a different video. You know, your family might look at you as you haven't grown up yet, you're immature, you're not committed, you're not reliable enough, you're not. That's the way people tend to look at single men. That's one of the disadvantages of being a single male, is you're looked at by your family, coworkers, you name it. And it goes without mentioning. People don't mention it. They just, in social circles, they say, oh, he's alone, he must be a loser, etc. There's something wrong. Number two is your limited social invitations. This comes into play when you're a single male. You're not invited to a lot of social events and gatherings and private events because you're single. A lot of private clubs, private events, social events are geared toward couples. That's just one disadvantage of being a single male. You're not invited to those events. If you are, you probably have to pay a lot higher amount to get in. So that's the second disadvantage. You're limited in social invitations when you're a single male. Number three, I scribbled down health and longevity. While this may or may not be true, you guys can chime in and tell me if you notice this. Single men, they say, are not as healthy as married men, and they don't live as long as married men. I think that's both true and false. I've seen buddies of mine that just let themselves go after they got married. They just gained a lot of weight and they just didn't care anymore because they had a wife, and I've kind of noticed that on both male and both married and married women too. I've noticed that. Now, I forgot to look up the statistics. I should have looked up the statistics on that, if there are any. It's probably true a married guy lives a little bit longer than single guys. because they have a helper. They have somebody who loves them. They have somebody to be there when they're in the hospital, etc. Number 4, I wrote down emotional isolation. A lot of guys my age or older who have lost a spouse or they're single, we tend to be isolated because we're at an older age and we're single and there's just not as many opportunities. Older single gentlemen have the disadvantages of, if they hit hard times, they don't have a helper or someone that they love that can help them. Number 5, we've talked about this before, it's financial disadvantages. I think I might try to dive in depth with that more. But here in the US, the tax brackets favor the married couples. Number 6, I scribbled down career disadvantages. I've noticed, and I don't know if you guys have noticed in your experience, that in the past, I don't know about the present day, but in the past what I noticed was employers kind of favored a married guy over a single guy. Number 7, I scribbled down that single males have limited social networks. And I think where that comes into play, what I was thinking about was, when you're a single male, you've got your buddies and you've got some social connections. But when you're a married man, your wife has a whole social network of her own, and you can plug into her network of people, especially when you're at couples events and couples gatherings, church, I don't know, weddings, etc. Can't think right now of what some good examples are, but you might meet more friends through her, and you might find more friends that you have a lot in common with that she knows, and she might meet friends that you know, etc. So single males are kind of cut out of that scenario because they're not married. So now if you're single and have a girlfriend and you meet friends through her, that's a good thing. But a lot of single males, especially older single males like myself and guys that are retired, guys that are widowers, they might not have that social circle anymore that they once had. Number 8, I wrote down difficulty in dating. Someone like me, I've always had difficulty in dating because of my social anxieties, my anxiety attacks, my learning disabilities. It all came into play with dating with me, but that's just me. I'm going to generalize this to everybody. Difficulty in dating, I think, is more difficult the older you get. Older guys have more difficulty, I think, than younger guys do, simply because younger guys are in situations that older guys are not, and older guys are kind of online dating and things like that. And it's just more difficult, I think, for older guys, older men who are single again, who are retired, etc. So let's say over 40, over 50. You guys might know more about this than I do, but I have found myself limited in dating, and I went all through the Match.com thing. Number 9, parent and family pressure. There comes a point in time when everybody's parents start asking you that question, when are you going to get married? When are you going to settle down? When it's not restricted to just guys. I think women go through even more pressure. When are you going to settle down? When are you going to get married? When are you going to... And then when you do get married, it never stops, because then when you do get married, it's like, when are y'all going to have kids? Because grandfather wants grandkids. The last and final one, number 10, I jotted down household burdens. Single guys have to do it all. They have to do everything by themselves. And I recently had a kitchen disposal go out on me. It took me about an hour. I went down to the hardware store and bought a new disposal for $100. It was $104. Some guys are probably going, oh man, you could have fixed it yourself, but I just didn't feel like taking the time to take the whole thing apart and tinker with it and clean it, and I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to spend my whole day repairing an old disposal. Next time it happens, I might decide to do that. But this time I just went and got a replacement, and it took me about an hour to fix, and I was done. That's a bad example, but when you're a single male, you've got to do everything around the house yourself. Now, if you're in an apartment, you just call the guy. You're pretty much doing everything yourself. You don't have somebody to do it with you. Do the best you can with what you've got, wherever you're at, and I will see you guys on the next one.